Part 2 of culture and ethnicity, or culture and race. So we've just mentioned that a color does not equal a culture. Let's develop that a bit further. If we bring up White Yardie, we see that his ethnicity is Caucasian. He's white English by ethnicity. But he was raised in Jamaica among black Jamaicans. He speaks that language or dialect of English. He relates to those people. As a matter of fact, from the comments that I saw on YouTube under one of the videos, those people identify with him as being Jamaican. So a skin color does not equal a culture. A skin color is simply inherited. A skin color and physical characteristics are simply genetic. Culture, however, is not genetic. Culture is learned. Culture is absorbed by an individual or group of individuals from their surroundings, from their cultural surroundings. So in the case of White Yardie, because he grew up where he did, he grew up as a Jamaican. Passport or no, culturally he is Jamaican. If we take a look at other people who are this way, we can see that sometimes adopted children would fall into this category if they were adopted by parents of a different ethnicity than theirs. If you have a child who is ethnically Korean, but is being raised by Euro-American parents, the culture of that child will likely be Euro-American, not Korean. And this goes for any cross-ethnicity adoption. So you cannot simply look at somebody and determine what their culture is by their skin color. Let's jump off on a slight tangent. We say don't judge people by their skin color. What we usually mean is don't think that they're bad people, or don't think that they're lazy, or they're thieves, or they're inferior, or whatever based on their skin color. We have to take that one step farther and say don't assume a person's culture based on their skin color. Because as a language helper that I had during my master's program, she was ethnically Korean, but she grew up in Uzbekistan, spoke fluent Russian, and not Korean. I assumed when I walked past the door to learn Russian that she was the one there to teach Korean, because that is how she looked. But culturally, she was not Korean, except for in some leftover vestigial way. She was Russian Uzbekistani. We can go further and talk about, like I said, people like myself and others like me. Take White Yardie, go to another person who's famous in the Pacific, a guy named Ocean. That's his artist name, O-S-H-E-N. He's a musician who grew up in Papua New Guinea, child of white missionary parents. He is ethnically and skin color white. He is culturally Papuan, or perhaps a mix of Euro-American like his parents and Papuan. When you go on YouTube and you watch his videos, sometimes you see comments underneath about him being a poser, or comments along the lines of cultural appropriation or those types of things. What I always see underneath in those comments, though, is people from New Guinea speaking Tokpisin, which is Melanesian Pidgin. It's the name of the language on that island. and saying, he's one of us, keep going, brother, this is awesome, thank you for representing us. So despite his color, he is Papuan, or perhaps a mix of Papuan and Euro-American. There are people all over the world like this. We're called third culture kids. That is, our parents were from one culture and we grew up in another culture or a combination of other cultures, making a third culture that's unique to us. We also fit into this category of you can't assume our culture by the color of our skin. There are people that I know or know of who grew up with native tribes in the Amazon. One of whom I met once, I don't know him personally, who moved back to the tribe he grew up with and has married and lives there on a permanent basis. That tribe, the Kofan, all consider him to be Kofan, even though his appearance is Euro-American. So we must be careful when we look at somebody to not assume that color equals culture. Color may be how people will treat us, well, how they respond to us, and I'm trying to break through that and convince people not to treat you according to your color. But we need to learn from others about their culture and not assume that because their hair is blonde, their eyes are blue, and their skin is pale, that they are Euro-American, or strictly German if you're in Europe, or English, or whatever it may be. We need to not look at someone who has dark skin, curly black hair, and fits the physical characteristics of what we think of as black, and assume that culturally they are African American. They could be Swahili. They could be Zulu, well, not Swahili. They could be Kenyan, Kikuyu. They could be Zulu. They could be Xhosa. They could be from New Guinea. We need to listen and understand about what a culture is and how people think and react to the world around them, which is culture, rather than assuming that someone is from a culture just because of their skin color. Last minute story about myself. I've been asked if I'm white, I've been asked if I'm Latino, and I've been asked if I'm Native. Thanks for listening.